Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our kind of a reprise of our WESAK festival meeting 2 days ago. We realized that somehow there were some technical difficulties, not only with our broadcast, but with the Lucis Trust broadcast, which we understand was cut for some reason. So we would like to offer you, since we are still in the 7-day period when the WESAK is celebrated. Really, as a matter of fact, if you take a look at what the hierarchy does, from the time of the new moon to the full moon and back to the new moon, they are holding that point of tension. That is not expected of us, but Tuija and I decided that we would give you a little reprise of some of the work we all did together a couple of days ago. Not everything will be possible, but we'll think back upon those 8 minutes when supposedly the Buddha is appearing in that faraway valley where our friend Sergei Smirnov and his group is presently to be found. And Sergei was speaking with us. I'm not sure whether it came through or not, but maybe we can find a way to find it and send it to you. So before we leave the WESAK energy and Taurus energy and start entering Gemini, and we hope to be able to give you a little bit of ingress of Gemini tomorrow, we'd like to review some points so you can have more music and a fuller kind of presentation. So as far as that goes, Tuija's ready, I'm ready, and hopefully the little technology devas will, somehow cooperate with us.
So welcome from my side also into our meditation broadcast. And this is coming now only in English. So now when we think about this time, the sacred time, I think it is something what all disciples has to bring now practically in everyone's lives, in that sense that we recognize these sacred times of the full moon. Master DK is talking about that as a full moon approach, belonging to the approach and the science of approaches, which are the future way of humanity to go approach towards divinity and towards God. So it's going to be the practical way what we now as disciples will open this new way of working with the higher beings, the divine beings, and with our Father, Sanat Kumara. This time it is, as we know, WESAK is celebrated that the moment when Buddha comes and blesses the world and opens the gate to Shambhala, directly from Shambhala. It was first like that the hierarchy needed to establish more stronger relationship with Shambhala. But then for us humanity, when Christ was implementing the will aspect on earth, into humanity, and in that sense this energy was becoming available for humanity as well. So let us see, do we hear any music background? We have this Himalayan meditation behind us. So do we hear anything? Okay, now we hear something. We at the same time can be starting our meditation work. realizing that now it is the days after the full moon which belong so much for us to recognize what has been achieved during the full moon. We are ought to also realize that and practice in ourselves, in our brain consciousness, the ability to recognize how the group was achieving the connection. Not only that how oneself was achieving, but how the group was achieving the connection during the full moon. So let us just for a while pause to this idea. The full moon moment, how do you remember, how do you recall that moment when, at least in our creative imagination, Buddha opened the gate from Shambhala, and how we, thousands of group members around the world, how we were gathered together and we tried to reach that contact. And then after coming days from this, we were supposed to implement that attitude towards the full moon moment. That within us the attitude is towards the full moon moment in such a way that in our brain consciousness we can hold it, we can bring it forward, and in distributing of the energies we recognize that we belong to that great work of distributing hierarchy, that we will bring down these energies. And then also that we will believe that we have been successful, because this is how we are implementing through this etheric field, through the cultivated elementals, that they will hold that structure in the etheric field, that we have been successful, that this alignment has been successful. As we hold within ourselves the keywords of Taurus, I see, and when the eye is opened, all is illumined. Recognition of the energies is kind of seeing, so we may ponder upon that idea. What is seeing when we see? The seeing we can relate to the group which is called the new group of observers, who are the Ajna Center for Sanat Kumara. And what kind of seeing is that? What kind of activity is that when we use the Ajna Center? But when we talk about seeing in relationship to Taurus, we talk about the real third eye, which is in the heart, in the center of the head center, which is also called the seat of the soul, or the throne of the soul. And when that eye is opened, all is illumined. Buddha was called, or Buddha is, and can be translated, the awakened one. And his eyes, or his eye, is fully opened, and that is illustrated when we see these nagas, the serpents behind him, guarding him, being alert all the time. And that is signifying the divine being who is fully opened, and in that sense the eye, all-seeing eye, can be found within us in one reflection, in the third eye within us. So how the life would be when that eye would be opened. And if Michael, you would like to add something.
I think we have to realize that the forces of enlightenment are released at this time. And that's one thing that we all, hopefully as members of the new group of world servers, are trying to bring to humanity, this sense of greater illumination. That is our hope, greater illumination and enlightenment, so that the lower matter of our vehicles can be adapted to the lighted program of this love, wisdom, solar system. The forces of restoration preceded us in Aries, restore the plan on Earth. The forces of reconstruction are coming in Gemini, but when we rebuild, we have to understand clearly what it is that needs to be rebuilt according to the divine plan. And so this is such a shambolic festival, and we receive some kind of impression of what the divine plan and maybe even the divine purpose may be for humanity, and in a smaller and less important way, but still important, our own little role in the divine plan according to the light within us.
So we will hold also our alignment with the new group of our servers around the world. Let us have a few or little shortcut to Buddha's teaching, because we are celebrating now the blessings of the Buddha and what he was teaching us, his gifts to humanity. So he was giving us the Four Noble Truths. And let us remind ourselves of those. 1. Life means suffering. 2. The origin of suffering is attachment. And that is our great dilemma in the world, in humanity, because humanity is so polarized with the astral nature and all of those desires. And we can relate to rest of the humanity, ourselves as well, how difficult it is to cut those ties into desires. 3. The cessation of suffering is attainable. And that is what was one of the great revelations of the Buddha, that the suffering does not have to just continue. The wheel of life does not have to just go around and around, but it can be turned around. And they, in that sense, be released from the suffering of the world. And then the 4th, the path to cessation, the path to the cessation of suffering will happen. Yes, there is missing something in English. When one is walking along the path of noble eightfold path. So let us see those 8 points which are helping us to end the suffering. So first is right view, which is leading us to wisdom. And in that sense, we can think about Taurus and seeing. The second one is right intention. Third, the right speech, which is again for us, the humanity is the 3rd planetary center, which is the throat center, and that's why the speech is for us one of the most important things, and will be those challenging times for all of us and for the disciples. And when the Saturn will come to rule the throat center, we really start to put emphasis upon this, what speech really is. Fourth, right action.
These sometimes appear so easy to fulfill, but if you look at right view, it means you have achieved soul consciousness, or even beyond that in the spiritual triad, and that somehow with right intention you have aligned with the spiritual will. And speech is the great creator of all forms and circumstances on the outer levels. And finally, it really has to come down to what you do as you set an example for others.
And the 5 is right livelihood. And that takes us into the understanding what is our work, does our way of working support the others, serve the others. If we have our own business, does it bring help for humanity? Does it help humanity to rise? And that is, of course, at this time, so very crucial question all around. What kind of things we are producing? What kinds of ways we are serving? Sixth one is right effort. And is related to mental development. Where we are aiming to, what we are aiming to, what our goals are. Right mindfulness is the seventh step. And this is what Buddha was leaving to us, saying, be vigilant. Meaning that we should be becoming all the time so alert that even during the sleep we would not sleep, but our mind would be awakened. This is also an aspect of the mind that when we think about clamors, how clamors are throwing the fog around us and we cannot see, and we can create all kinds of ways, traps for ourselves in our concrete mind, which is nothing about being mindfulness. But then when we can open ourselves the way that the eye will be opened and the soul contact is established, and we can be in the clarity of the mountaintop in the Buddhic realms, to really see correctly what are the things we have to be aware of and careful of, and what are really things that one does not create all kinds of ghosts and unnecessary fears. Then 8 is right concentration, which is then leading to the final great revelation. And we can think about this the way before the blue indigo disc through which we go and have our mind focused within. Buddha was talking about the Noble Middle Way, and that is something what is related to Libra and the again Saturn, that we hold ourselves in very unique ways in balance, and we can hold then the energies of the power of Shambhala.
in concluding this little review of the Noble Eightfold Path, one of the amazing things about the Buddha, with his wisdom soul on the second ray and his first ray personality, is that he insisted on strenuousness, that all of these abilities were not to be approached in a casual way, maybe they'll work, maybe they'll not work, but really exert himself. Let the disciple really, really be strenuous in his application to learning these noble steps, these 8 noble steps. And I'm reminded there of right effort, number 6. It seems to operate on every level. When you follow the Buddha, it's a strenuous path.
And it is worth really contemplating more than just today, because the Great One has been giving us again tool how to solve the problem, being bound into the cycle of rebirths. So now we will just have some message to us by DK. This is coming from the externalization of the hierarchy from page 542, and it is telling us about the WESAK, and also something may be surprising to us, that Buddha is not coming, or he is going to centuries last blessing is going to be changed, and that duty is coming upon the new group of observers. DK says the main intention in the early stages of keeping the Eastern festival of WESAK is to familiarize the Western world with the fact of the presence of the Buddha and with his activities in connection with humanity. Such great progress has, however, taken place in the spiritual development of humanity that the Buddha need no longer continue with his task unless he so desires, and then only for a period of years known to him and the Lord of the world. He could cease his annual contact with the hierarchy at this time, if he so chose, owing to the direct contact now established between the hierarchy and Shambhala. This, however, he does not immediately choose to do. For a few decades longer he will cooperate with the Christ in widening the channel of contact between Shambhala, the hierarchy, and humanity. After that he will proceed to his own place in the solar hierarchy and will no longer visit the Himalayas annually, as has been his custom for so many centuries. The Eastern festival of WESAK, or Vaisakha, and the Christian Day of Remembrance, Good Friday, will fade out of the consciousness of humanity in due time. They are both festivals related to aspect of the first ray of power or will. The abolition of the fear of death and the establishment of a close relation of the hierarchy with Shambhala will render obsolete these ancient ceremonial rites. In this message I would like to consider with you primarily the festival of the Christ, held at the time of the full moon of June, and the work of the Christ as he prepares himself for the fulfillment of his true mission on earth. The Christian Church has so distorted that mission and ruthlessly perverted the intention of which he originally manifested, that a consideration of that mission is deeply needed and should be revolutionary in its effect. So effective has been their work. I have to still read one sentence before. Starting with Saint Paul, the theologians interpreted his words in such a manner that they served to bridge the gap between the spiritual future of the world and the Jewish dispensation which should have been passing out. So effective has been their work that the teachings of the loving, simple Son of God have been largely ignored. And that's why we also take into our contemplation this time that we are living at the moment after Easter, this 50 days which is leading to Pentecost, is also the time when the Christ himself was asking the disciples to go within. He was telling the story of the man who is carrying the water pitcher, and that man was leading them, the disciples, into the upper chamber where they had then the last meal, the Last Supper as it is called, but it was also the first feast of communion, which all the communions are the preparations for the coming communion when the Christ himself will lead communion with humanity. And that is indicating the brotherhood, living brotherhood, or we can say also sisterhood on earth. And in that sense, all the forerunners which are governed by the Taurus and the nuclear world servers are supposed to open the way. And that time for us is so very important that we go within and understand that this time of the year in human development, present development, is the part of the year which is full of light, and the inner activity with the inner presences who are guiding humanity. So let us keep all of that in our minds at the same time when we are also having our intention and our contemplation during this WESAK time. And now we will go within in that sense that we align with worldwide, with working groups, and we can also take into our meditation contact our triangle members. So we align horizontally. And within we salute, we give our gratitude, we recognize the presence of the great ones. And we can give our deep gratitude to Master DK, who has been the conduit of giving the message from the hierarchy, and not only from hierarchy but in many sense the message from Sanat Kumara. Also, let us align with our own Master, and that line, the least resistance for ourselves individually, giving our deep gratitude to those who are walking before us, and then also blessing those who are coming behind us. And now we salute the 7 Johans. Salutations to Master Moria. Salutations to Master Kutomi. Salutations to Master Paul the Venetian. Salutations to the Master Seraphis Bay. Salutations to Master Hilarion. Salutations to Master Jesus. Salutations to the unnamed 7th Ray Johan. Salutations to the 3 great ones, the Bodhisattva, the Manu and Mahajohan. Salutations to the 3 Lords of Liberation in Shambhala. Salutations to the 3 Buddhas of activity. Salutations to the Father in Shambhala, to Sanat Kumara. when we think about the actual ceremony on WESAK Valley, the Christ is leading the outer ceremony. So let us align with this great ceremony, whether it is the way that it is continuing or it has continued, but the Christ in any case will be the key leader who is directing these energies into humanity. And within our minds, let us gather with the group who is working intensively for distributing these high energies, and gathering in His name for His aid. And let us say together, we have gathered in your name, Lord Maitreya, be with us. And let our minds now travel to the sacred valley and the energies which are pouring through this sacred place. Now we are going to have some images from our group with Michael on the year 2000, when we very old-fashioned ways traveled to the WESAK Valley. It took 5 days from Nepal, and we were going by jeeps through this plateau, which is full of sand and also quicksand. So now you are going to have music on the background, and we just run these lights, and we hope that in that sense you will get some authentic touch to this place when you drive through the plateau, the beautiful, beautiful plateau, and then you have beside you the Himalayas, and then finally you reach the goal, the WESAK Valley. Do you want to add something, Michael?
It was a life-changing trip, and we went there because of the Shambhala impact of the year 2000. It affected humanity greatly, and certainly it affected the individuals, the little individuals such as we were, in years to come. Now almost 20 years has passed, and we're so happy to have Sergei and his group there right now in the WESAK Valley, experiencing, the WESAK energies, and who knows, maybe going around Mount Kailash the way we did.
Yes, they are going
around.
Kora, yes.
You got to the top first, and I had to ride a yak, but okay.
Where what Michael means, there is the passage which is called the dead point, and it goes so high that nothing is growing there.
19,000 feet, something like that. But somehow we all made it around, and I hope are better.
And you will see some of those photos.
Yeah.
So now we invite every one of you to travel via these images. We don't speak, we just let these images speak to your heart. this crowned, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. We hope that this was giving you some taste for this land and what the valley looks like. Here we see this rock, this famous rock that upon which it is said this ceremony is taking place, and it is really huge. It's not little rock but really several hundreds meters long. And then we have some photos which have come just a few days ago from Sergei from WESAK Valley, and here he is riding with the white horse. I have heard that the Chinese are not allowing anymore to use yaks, so I'm not quite sure is that true, but that is what I have heard, that they are not anymore allowed to be used by this tourists and carrying tourists, that one has to use this kind of horses who are used to go along the high altitudes. That these are Sergei's photos. Here is, I think this is Lake Manasarova, the sacred lake. It seems to have a lot of water. Then when we were there was not so much water. It depends on the amount of snow which is then there. And this is now how the valley is looking at the moment, and for our surprise there has come some buildings what we were actually seeing. And there is much more snow at the moment. That is how we were getting the message. Here we still have the image of the Kailash, which is called also Mount Meru, the world axis. Michael, do you want to say something?
It's just such an amazing place. We were very blessed to be there, and many of the discipleship groups since that time have been going there. A film was made about the WESAK festival by the filmmaker Albi Falzon. He's a friend of ours, and in the late late 1900s, 1980, 1990, he went there and inspired us all to find our way there. And now the contact is really being made. But let it be made in your hearts and minds, and let us use the WESAK as our high point of inspiration for the spiritual year. DK said it should be done that way, and hopefully our little reprise of our WESAK broadcast a couple of days ago will help us keep the energy flowing in that direction as we begin before long to enter the Gemini energy.
Let us form a mudra, which is called the wheel-turning mudra. If you remember that in the beginning we were talking about the wheel of life, which is the wheel of birth and rebirth. And this mudra is the mudra which Buddha is making, indicating that the wheel has been turned. He's turning this wheel completely towards freedom and towards the world service. He is not anymore a human being. He is godlike being, and he is the creating divinity, creating being who has gained enlightenment and who is the teacher of humans and of gods. So let us form that and then again remind ourselves about the WESAK Valley.
The
So let us have now 8 minutes silence for honoring those moments that Buddha comes, descends and blesses the world. And let us remember also that it is said that he is blessing the waters, not only the waters on the ground, but the waters within us. And aligning with these great times of the full moons along the sacred year, that we are very conscious about this full moon time now. Buddha touched the cosmic mental plane. His mind is now fully liberated and all ignorance disappeared. And that is his gift for all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from happiness that is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from both attachment and hatred, holding some close and others distant. Let us carry these WESAK energies consciously. TK talks about this sacred time of the full moon. And the more distant we walk from the exact moment, the more and more subtle the energies become. That's why we try to learn in our brain consciousness to recognize these very, very subtle energies, which are our job to be distributed to the lower worlds. To the end, we still remind us something which is on the way. And I will read from the same text from externalization of the hierarchy. And it was 542 on. And it is said, the first things which the Christ will do will be to prepare all people everywhere for the revelation for which all humanity waits. It is this revelation which lies behind all the activities which now engross the attention of the hierarchy. The Christ endeavored to offset and bring to the end the need for the 10 commandments by giving us the 11th commandment. This, if kept, would entail the keeping of all the others. For this new revelation the Christ is preparing, as are all the members of the hierarchy, from the highest Johann down to the humblest accepted disciple. It is for this that all the ashrams are getting ready. It is for this also that Christian people, those of the other world faiths, and spiritually minded people are likewise preparing. And this time, prior the Pentecost, we also should have our minds aligned with that, even though this is not the year that this is going to be known by humanity, but we have to prepare in many ways that this in one day in the future will be the moment for all humanity, this great moment that this on this earth chain we are expecting, which is really going to be the turning point for whole humanity, as we had this mudra. And maybe we will take that mudra with us to the meditation work for this coming period or for the rest of our lives. And remembering, we all are now here to make this great turn of the wheel for the whole humanity and for this coming new revelation. So with these words we will end our little catch-up of the WESAK energies and the ideas, and maybe Michael, you want to still say something?
We hope that this little review and this anticipation of the coming Gemini energies was useful to you. We're still in the Taurus energies and will be for a little while. And 7 days is the period given to us that we can celebrate. 5 days, 7 days, 3 days. But we're celebrating for 7 days now, and we hope that you are able to gain some added understanding and inspiration from this little program, which I trust now will be done without technical difficulty. That's our great hope. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for your presence and for your participation. We will end into the great invocation, and by that we remember this new coming revelation for the whole humanity, which Christ will bring with him, and all this new what is dawning in our history. So lots of love to everybody. Thank you so much, and wonderful last days or the last moments of WESAK. Namaste.